let's talk about the Middle East. That's a place that you've that you've invested a lot of time and effort.
Start with a simple one, right?
And a two-state solution now seems perhaps further away than ever. We have a war in Gaza that is dragging on, more than 50,000 dead, according to the Gaza Ministry of Health. What should we be doing to try to end that war and bring some kind of a future to the Middle East?
Okay, so, I mean, I have spent many, many years working on this. My institute's very active in the Middle East, and you know, I could go into so much detail. We'd be here until tomorrow, but I just want to pick out two things. First of all, the broader picture in the Middle East, to me, is all about a struggle for modernity, whether the states of the Middle East can achieve societies of religious tolerance and economies that are open and connected. And you see this struggle going on in different forms literally all over the region. And it has its echo back in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, where, in my view, it's at one level, it is quite a simple thing to express, although difficult to do. Where you have two peoples living side by side in a small piece of territory, and remember, you could fit the whole of Israel and the Palestinian territories into, what, I don't know, New York State, I guess, possibly, yeah. So it's where you have two peoples living side by side and there is conflict, then one of two things happens. Either you find a way of resolving the conflict, as we did in Northern Ireland, finally, so the two peoples there living side by side, but they live peacefully with each other, or you will find that the stronger one will end up having to sit on the weaker one in order to protect their security. And basically, you won't get back to a two-state solution or even a rational discussion about that, because for many people in Israel right now, that discussion looks, frankly, you know, completely unrealistic. You won't get back to that unless you find a way of creating a genuine cultural, not just formal peace, a cultural peace between those two peoples. And that, for many Israelis, that will be about whether the Palestinian state or entity, whatever it may be, but self-determination for the Palestinians can be done in a way that doesn't threaten their security. And where, as it were, that acceptance, both culturally and not just formally, of the state of Israel means that the two peoples can live side by side with some sense of equity and justice. And I think what has happened in Gaza is so terrible in terms of its impact that this is the place we need to start. If we're going to have any hope for the future, it's got to start with Gaza.
In the 1980s, it seemed, you mentioned Northern Ireland, it seemed impossible that there would ever be a peace agreement there. And then, I mean, frankly, both conservative and Labour governments showed a remarkable degree of restraint most of the time in Northern Ireland in ways that created that culture that you talked about. And so it seems to me one of the lessons of that is the importance of restraint. Is that a useful lesson to transmit to the Netanyahu government?
Well, the point is, restraint is obviously really important, but the most important thing is to have a framework within which people feel they have the confidence to make peace with each other. And that's why, you know, look, potentially, it could be something, if you manage to create peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, it would have a huge impact on the whole of the region. I mean, the bigger picture in the region is still the desire to do the bigger deal with Saudi Arabia, America, Israel. But frankly, that's not going to happen unless we can create the circumstances in which people feel that Palestinians are also able to live in peace and security.
One of the things that both the Biden administration and the Trump administration have attempted to do is a multi-party deal in which Some of the Gulf countries, including Saudi Arabia, would recognize Israel. Israel would start on a path toward a Palestinian state. The U.S. in turn would provide security guarantees toward Saudi Arabia and some steps toward a nuclear program. Are the hopes for that kind of a multi-party deal? Is there a ray of hope that we can see there?
Well, there is if we understand that how Gaza is ultimately resolved will be extremely important in this. I mean, I don't think any form of words around Palestinian state, two-state solution, they're not going to carry any credibility unless on the ground people see some hope.